It was thrilling to have so many of the artists in the show, and artists in our community come and experience the show at the opening. The exhibition is titled Traitor Survivor Icon, The Legacy of La Malinche. It comes from the Denver Art Museum. They organized this exhibition to amazing curators, one of whom is on the permanent staff of the Denver Art Museum, Victoria Lyle, and then an independent curator based out of the Bay Area, Teresita Romo. Tere Romo actually wrote an essay in the early 2000s titled Malinche as Metaphor, and that essay is the blueprint for the exhibition that you see here. She outlined 5 different archetypes that embody La Malinche, who was the linguistic and cultural interpreter for Hernán Cortés, the Spanish conquistador, in the early 1500s during his campaign to invade the Aztec Empire. She was an indigenous girl who was kidnapped from her home place, a Nahua community off the coast of Veracruz, and had a really remarkable and short life. This exhibition aims to dispel a lot of the misconceptions about her. She's considered a traitor because of her role in the Spanish invasion of Mesoamerica, and Malinchista, or Malinche, means a cultural traitor. This exhibition offers reinterpretations and reclamations of her identity through artists that are more sympathetic to her story or see themselves in parts of her story. This exhibition had a community advisory panel. We decided upon doing a performance highlighting Malinche's story.
When the Guadalupe Dance Company first started this project, we basically started doing our research. So we started reading about the exhibit and then about the historical context of La Malinche.
So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ra pa 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 pa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pa, 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 pa. Columns, pa, 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 pa. I want Jayla to end up in the center of the circle. That's what I'm trying to. So in the second one, she would end up in the circle facing forward. And then now, go to your places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and finish 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pa, 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 pa. Left, pa, 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 pa. Eso es. Yes? And then we circle around her, and then the end is this last pose, okay?
Throughout the history of the dance company, we do have experience in creating our own work that is outside of the traditional folklorico vocabulary, even though we use that to inform our choreography. Here, we were creating something completely from scratch.
While we were familiar with, the negative connotation of being Malinchista, and trying to find out more about her life was very, very important. So each one of the choreographers did their own research. And then when we would gather in the studio, we would talk about the different stories and the different perspectives that we found out.
One of the beautiful things about this dance company is that the majority of the company members have been together for about 20 years. So it's really a safe and comfortable environment to work and explore and kind of open yourself up to trying different things on each other, right? Because we're all peers. We kind of developed this relationship with her, right? As we started to delve into that history and get to know her and create choreography. Since we were approaching the production from her side of the story, from her voice, we decided to call it Soy Malintzin. I am Malintzin. Memoria de la tierra, florece tu piel, sabiduría guerrera.
ombligo de la luna en el centro del tiempo. Memoria de la hoguera, luz en la palabra de sabia curandera. Hija de la tierra, remedios para el alma, pulidos en piedra. Hija de la tierra, si no te cura tu magia, ¿qué te queda?
The introductory gallery features a timeline that outlines Malinche's life as we know it based on the few written and pictorial manuscripts from the early 1500s and the 1600s that talk about her life and her role in the Spanish invasion. And then you have a couple of works of art that set the stage for what you're going to see in the remainder of the exhibition. So there's a wonderful map by the artist Sandy Rodriguez. The first of the 5 sections that embody the 5 archetypes featured in Tere Romo's essay is the interpreter. This section is all about looking at Malinche's best-known role in her life, which was the linguistic and cultural interpreter for Hernán Cortés. This section explores the different ways in which Malinche, but also Indigenous women in Mesoamerica in general, have been interpreted through visual culture. The mother of a mixed race, or in Spanish, la madre del mestizaje. So the section looks at that role of Malinche and Cortés that they have been assigned as the Mexican Adam and Eve, or the mother and father of the mestizo race in Mexico. The mother of a mixed race, and in the subsequent section, Traitor, are looking at her as, I would say, exploited. So Malinche's name has been now cemented as this adjective to describe someone who is going against traditional values of their culture. The last section of the exhibition is titled Chicana Contemporary Reclamations, and it features work by almost exclusively women artists, both from Mexico and Mexican-American artists working in the United States. The ultimate goal of that section is to celebrate Malinche's legacy and elevate her to the status of some of these emblematic figures in Mesoamerican and Mexican history, but giving her an independent voice through the perspective of these artists that feel a compassion for her and that feel like they can see themselves in her story or certain aspects of her story. The word reclamations, I think, is really important in understanding the goal of this exhibition, which is to take in the full spectrum of Malinche's story, but then use the contents of that story to reclaim her as this complex person who ultimately was incredibly brave and lived her life to the best of her abilities under the circumstances that she faced.
This whole process was very emotional for us in trying to relate to her story and trying to imagine what it would be like to be ripped away from your culture, to be pulled away from your family, and to survive. We really enjoy telling stories. The storytelling part of our work and some of our repertoire is very important because we feel it empowers our audiences. And that is the best compliment that we can get from our audience members, to say, I feel empowered by the work that you do, and I feel that you're representing our culture. And so this opportunity to be able to create a new piece that was inspired by the exhibit at the San Antonio Museum of Art was a wonderful opportunity and so meaningful to our dance company, to the Guadalupe Dance Company, but also we feel like it's going to stay in our repertoire for a long time because it really gave us a figure, an icon that is our history. It is our Mexican history, and what better way to do it than through music and dance.
So something that the organizing curators have said about the contents of this exhibition is that this is not the end of Malinche's story. This is perhaps a beginning. I definitely think that this exhibition might inspire artists and writers of a new generation to think about her story and produce work interpreting her story even further and reclaiming her story even further. I hope that this exhibition helps to dispel the negative connotations to her name and her legacy that are still prevalent in our society.